ever feel like the future of self-expression? Like it's less about fitting in,
Yeah.
you know, and more about like breaking the mold?
Yeah.
That's where cyberpunk comes in.
Absolutely.
And today we are diving deep into an article. It's called Identity and Rebellion,
Yeah.
Gender Expression in Cyberpunk Culture,
Okay.
to really kind of explore how this genre, how cyberpunk uses its signature style to really make us rethink identity,
Yeah.
and especially when it comes to gender.
Well, I think what's so fascinating is how cyberpunk uses technology as this catalyst, right, for this exploration of gender. And it's not just about cool gadgets and, awesome tech. It's about how those advancements could fundamentally change our relationship with our bodies and in turn, our understanding of gender, how we view it.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. The article connects this to like the potential for radical self-expression, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, imagine a world where you could modify your physical form at will, you know?
Yeah.
Suddenly the idea of like fixed binary gender categories starts to feel very limiting, even archaic. Cyberpunk is really pushing us to ask, in a world where you can augment your body, with technology, why should gender be any different?
Right. Like cyberpunk is almost giving us like a glimpse into a future where identity becomes much more fluid and self-defined. Right.
Exactly, and that's a concept that the article really highlights, this idea that technology in the world of cyberpunk could actually dismantle this whole notion of fixed identities and really kind of open up a whole spectrum of possibilities. I mean, think about it. If you can change your physical form, what does that mean for your sense of self? What does that mean for your gender expression? Even your understanding of what it means to be human, right? These are questions that cyberpunk really kind of tackles head on.
And the way that this plays out in cyberpunk fashion is so interesting too.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
The article mentions, the visuals, those striking visuals, sharp silhouettes, metallic tones, tactile accessories. It's almost like a deliberate rejection of those more traditional gendered clothing norms that we see today, right?
Yeah, it's about reclaiming fashion as this tool for self-expression, really, regardless of what societal expectations are. And I think by blending those elements of, traditionally masculine and feminine styles, cyberpunk is creating this space for much greater freedom and creativity in how we present ourselves.
So it's not just about like looking cool.
Yeah.
It's about challenging the very idea of what, quote unquote, masculine or feminine even means in the first place. Right.
So, precisely, yeah. Cyberpunk disrupts those binary categories and really paves the way for a much more fluid and inclusive understanding of gender expression. I think ultimately it's about embracing individuality and really celebrating that full spectrum of human identity.
And cyberpunk doesn't shy away from like showcasing that full spectrum of identity.
Right.
Like the article mentions how the genre provides representation for those who identify outside the gender binary.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it offers a really refreshing change in how it portrays non-binary and gender fluid individuals. It's not about like token representation. It's about really creating this world where those identities are normalized and celebrated.
Yeah. And we see that in video games too, like Cyberpunk 2077, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like the character creation options let you play with different like physical attributes and clothing styles, regardless of your like chosen gender identity.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a small detail, but I think it speaks volumes about how cyberpunk really embraces this inclusivity, and it challenges us to kind of rethink those limitations we often impose on gender expression in the real world.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's like it's a great example of how even these fictional worlds can like offer these really valuable insights into how we view identity.
Yeah.
And speaking of like impactful representations, the article mentioned Toko Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, yeah.
She's such a like total badass, and she just embodies that like cyberpunk spirit.
She really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kisanagi is a fantastic example of how cyberpunk really uses its characters to push boundaries. As a cyborg, in this female presenting body, she's constantly grappling with questions of identity, humanity, and what it means to even exist in this technologically advanced world. But I think her very existence is really challenging those ingrained assumptions that we have about gender, and it really forces us to confront, maybe even our own biases.
And her look is so iconic, like that blend of high-tech enhancements with this really sleek, almost androgynous style. It really exemplifies how how cyberpunk uses fashion as this like form of rebellion.
For sure. Yeah, and the article makes a great point about that, about cyberpunk fashion being, a form of protest in a way. It's about reclaiming your appearance and really using it to challenge those societal norms. Just like punk and goth subcultures used fashion to kind of express their discontent. I think cyberpunk takes it a step further by kind of infusing it with this futuristic, this tech noir aesthetic.
Totally. It's like they're saying, we're not just going to follow your rules, we're going to rewrite them entirely. And
Exactly.
we'll look damn good doing it. Speaking of looking good, the article actually called out a specific brand, LAZErorange.
Yeah.
Have you seen their stuff? It just, like, it screams cyberpunk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think they really embody that whole cyberpunk fashion ethos. You
Well,
know, the studded leather jackets, the distressed denim, the asymmetrical cuts. It's all about kind of defying expectations and embracing a more maybe edgy and utilitarian aesthetic. But I think, it's not just about the clothes themselves. It's really about what they
it's
represent.
about, like, more than just a cool look, right?
Yeah.
It's about pushing those boundaries and challenging, like, the mainstream.
Yeah.
And that's something that really resonates beyond just, the cyberpunk subculture.
Right.
Like the article suggests that these fashion choices are almost like they're reflecting this broader shift in how we think about gender in general.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, LA's Orange, their designs, with their blend of streetwear and high fashion, it challenges those traditional notions of, what's considered masculine or feminine. And I think it's about blurring those lines and creating something new,
Yeah.
something that really reflects that fluidity of identity that we're seeing more and more in the real world these days.
Totally. It's like cyberpunk is almost like holding up this mirror to society,
Yeah.
showing us these possibilities that already exist, even if they're not always like acknowledged.
Right.
And the really cool thing is like we are seeing these cyberpunk influences starting to like seep into mainstream culture, right?
Yeah.
Like we see brands embracing these gender neutral clothing lines. We see celebrities challenging traditional gender norms on like the red carpets these days. It's
Yeah.
like those futuristic visions they're becoming our present reality in a way.
They really are, and that's the power of cyberpunk, right? It allows us to kind of imagine different futures, to question these ingrained social constructs, and ultimately to inspire change here and now. The fact that we're seeing these shifts in fashion and self-expression, it suggests that cyberpunk isn't just this niche genre anymore. It's tapping into something much larger, like this collective desire for a more inclusive and accepting world.
Totally. It's like those like cyberpunk stories almost planted a seed.
Yeah.
And now we're like seeing it blossom in the real world, which I think it's pretty amazing to see.
It really is.
So as we're like wrapping up our deep dive into, cyberpunk and gender expression here, what's like the key takeaway you hope our listener like walks away with from this conversation today?
I think the most important thing to remember is that cyberpunk really it empowers us to question everything. It
Yeah.
it challenges us to look beyond the surface, to really kind of challenge these ingrained assumptions we have about gender, about identity, and to imagine this future where those boundaries become, increasingly fluid and ultimately meaningless.
Yeah. It's about like embracing that rebellious spirit, that freedom to express ourselves authentically without being, confined by these outdated norms, right?
Absolutely.
And cyberpunk it gives us the vocabulary and the visuals to explore these ideas in a way that's both thought-provoking and, like you said, incredibly stylish.
Exactly. And remember, this conversation isn't just happening in the realm of fiction, right? This is happening in our streets, this is happening in our schools, in our homes. Cyberpunk just gives us a really, cool neon-drenched language to talk about it, I guess.
Right. And who doesn't love a little neon in their life?
Exactly.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into cyberpunk and gender expression.
Yeah.
We hope this exploration has, like, sparked some new insights for you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.